Modern Expo invites you to Parcel and Post Expo 2022, taking place in Frankfurt from the 18th to the 20th of October. At this event, they will present the largest pavilion, showing parcel locker solutions, innovative delivery methods, logistics model improvements, and much more. Marek, FedEx recently had a bit of a share collapse. This was after its CEO came out and said that, what did he say? The world's economy was heading for a recession. Oh, gosh. Anyway, Marek, you have some thoughts on this.
Absolutely. I think it was the biggest share fall for them, or fall, is that the word? But decline, let's call it that way, since 1978, according to the Wall Street Journal. So it's a big deal because I don't think they were around much before 1978. And you know what? My opinion is this is a sign of things to come. Let's be honest. There are external factors, the world economy, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, post-COVID issues where COVID really had everything on a high. So these are all things that are exogenous, but there are endogenous things as well. And I think this is my favorite, legacy carrier issue, that the guys have not adapted for the new last mile.
So in what sense? I mean, because there's been a lot of talk in the US about failure to integrate to the ground and express networks. There's been talk about the facility closures. There's been talk about declining transatlantic volumes. There have been things like that. And Marek, if you just say parcel lockers, I'll end the call.
As you can imagine, I might cover an area at least close to that. But there are two issues, Ian. There's the international express side, which has been in decline because, people are looking for cheaper, more local solutions. E-commerce requires faster delivery times, faster availability of stock. In Europe, for example, the new VAT laws meant that it's not so economically attractive to ship direct from China because of various VAT and other issues, for example. So I think on one hand, big things are happening that are changing the number of parcels being shipped. But I think the issue is they, in my view, are not geared up for the new last mile. What I mean by that is they're going to be 2-3 letter acronyms, and I'm sure you know which ones.
Well, first of all, it's got to be IDM. And this is the IDM part of it, I think, is not unique to FedEx. Speaking as a consumer, I think that it's not unique to FedEx. But go on, what's the other? If the other 3-letter acronym is OOH, though, Marek, we might get some pushback in the comments.
You're not allowed to turn the microphone off or turn off the camera. Of course, it's out of home. The reason the two intertwine, because without good IDM, which in turn requires really good route planning, route optimization, all the goodies that make sure that last mile trip is efficient on one hand. And on the other hand, if you don't match that with a great out-of-home capability, you end up delivering your 1.2 parcels on average to individual addresses with all of the issues that entails, which is a very costly process. And it's also a process that's not very effective, operationally, financially, ecologically. And I think that the big issue is they are changing, they are looking at out-of-home, but for me, the question is it too little too late when you compare to carriers like Amazon who really get it and they leverage all tech and other capabilities in the last mile. Players like DPD, they don't exist in the US. And then players like InPost, who, although I have doubts about what's happening in the UK, and that's going to be, I think, a topic for another LMP videocast. Certainly, if you look at the markets where they've, I believe, done a good job, Poland and France, potentially, it's a completely different approach.
Right, well, there was a really interesting point made by Matt Hertz. He's getting a call out again in one of our videos, Marek, over in the USA, who said that, what did he say? He said the stock market would not have reacted as it did to FedEx if the issues were things that management couldn't control. I thought that was an interesting point. The stock market's reaction reflects the opinion of Wall Street that the problems at FedEx are within FedEx's control. Everybody will say, well, hang on a second, and share prices in other carriers, even Royal Mail's share price fell on the back of all of this hoo-ha out of the USA. However, not all these companies are exactly the same, are they, Marek? So you were saying before that there was, what did you call it, exogenous, and what was
endogenous, exogenous and endogenous.
Right.
Oh, this is my macroeconomics from uni back in, I won't even say when because it was so long ago.
Last century, everybody.
Yeah, last century. And not even the very end of the last century, I should add.
So Then the other headline grabber from the US with regard to FedEx has been its relationship with its ground contractors. There's been a fractious relationship. It dates back to just after peak when the ground contractors were complaining that FedEx had overestimated, might be a way of putting it, the parcel volumes, and as a result, they'd not made a mozza out of peak season. And now, more recently, FedEx fired one ground contractor who holds 260 contracts and things like this. So there's a bit of concern there as well. Is that part of it, do you think, or is that sort of an unrelated side issue?
I think, Ian, it's all related, because if you don't have an efficient last mile, and there are many reasons. So Royal Mail, you mentioned earlier, one of the issues that Royal Mail has is it hasn't been able to win over, in my view, or the management hasn't been able to win over the unions to understand that at the end of the day, if you don't create a more efficient last mile, you'll become irrelevant anyway. So it's not that you can just artificially pay the way that you used to pay, have the last mile models that you used to have because, hey, it's great and it means everybody's fully employed and having a reasonably good time of it. You have to change. And the problem is the guys who don't change, in the face of people like Amazon or companies like Amazon who do change every day. Every day is a new day at Amazon. They're the ones who are going to lose. So I think it's a big issue. It's a people issue. Somebody, I can't remember who it was, someone quite clever said that the biggest challenges for businesses are actually the vision of the management of that business. My concern is that whereas FedEx management had an incredible vision when they started out, they were the guys who were changing the market. They were the leaders. They were the avant-garde. Would you say today FedEx, or for that matter UPS, are the avant-garde? I wouldn't.
You think about UPS with regard to innovation, and recently, this is just an impression, everybody. You can make your own comments down below. My impression about UPS has been about things like route optimization, its Orion program, and its program to reduce emissions. So, I mean, that's sort of the impression. But I don't have any impression along those lines with FedEx, other than how they're going to get ground and express to work, how are they, their relationship with Amazon, and things like that.
If you think about it, in the Western Hemisphere, so let's just take two very important markets, the US or North America, which in itself is a very, very important segment, and then Europe. Who have been the movers and shakers? Has it been the legacy carriers? No, it's been Amazon and the likes of Amazon. Europe's a bit different because we've got some really B2C-centric carriers, and I think in that respect, DPD's done pretty well. We talked about Impulse before, and there are some posts that are really doing good stuff. But I think in terms of the big picture, the legacy carriers have let themselves slip behind, and they're no longer the trendsetters. They're no longer the innovators. And the question is, can they rekindle that visionary approach to the last mile? Not sure. I had high hopes for new management at UPS, but actually, other than a couple of perhaps sensible divestments, I've not really seen that much happening there.
I feel like we might be opening a can of worms. I heard this unrelated. I heard someone on the radio this morning saying that something literally opened a can of worms, and I thought, how stupid are people to think that you can literally open a can of worms? Have you ever bought a can of worms, Marek? You seen it at the supermarket? Anyway, that's by the by. I feel like we might be opening a can of worms here. So comment below. Let us know what you think about the strategic direction of FedEx. What do you think is ailing FedEx? Is it all just in the minds of major investors on Wall Street? Is there actually nothing wrong with FedEx? Or is it just a bump in the road and management has it all under control? There seems to be a lot happening there, and I'll be interested to see comments from people who are maybe even a bit closer to FedEx than we are. Marek, any final comments before we wrap up?
Well, actually, I've got a funny one, which may make the can of worms a little bit bigger. I recently sent a parcel by FedEx to myself in Estepona, Spain, from Poland, both EU countries. And I didn't get any information, no IDM about something going wrong. I logged in the day before it should have arrived, which was after, I think, 4 days, which is quite a long time anyway for an express carrier. And it turned out it was held in customs, at which point I called and I said, well, hold on a minute. How can EU shipment with non-commercial goods be held in customs? Suddenly it was freed from customs. But I think it's just indicative of some of the issues that they have.
And all the technology exists to avoid that problem. Thank you for watching this video on YouTube. Remember to hit, I'll get it in a second, everybody, hit like, subscribe, and the notifications bell so you get a notification every time we publish one of these videos. Your subscribing to this channel helps us keep it free. And if you're not already following us on LinkedIn, go over to LinkedIn, and follow us there. Marek Różycki, thanks for being part of the Last Mile Profits today.
Thank you, and thank you, everybody.